Everybody say it mean.
Who's that out there living the dream? Let's blow in the bean. Who's that still smoking all that green? Let's blow in the bean. Come on, y'all, let me hear you scream. Let's blow in the bean. Let's blow in the bean. Let's blow in the bean. Go.
Special edition coming right at you.
Bonus episode.
It has been a whirlwind of events that have been going on, and this is since our last podcast. Only a day in between,
Every time
guys.
we get off the air, breaking news.
Breaking news.
Which
is
an oxymoron. Late
no,
breaking.
Late breaking is an oxymoron. Right. Breaking news. So,
anyways, breaking news.
There was breaking news. The breaking news today that we just have to hit head on is Jon Jones has been caught with a steroid and or illicit substance a day before his fight. After weigh-ins, before the fight, he took a urinalysis through USADA, and yesterday afternoon, they ended up informing the UFC, Dana White and company, that he had a potential violation. They were still finishing, but pretty much if USADA says there might be a violation, you're gonna get caught. That means it's coming down the pipeline. People have been talking about this all day. You definitely are coming here because you want to hear from us. What I got to people, everyone has an opinion about this because this could be, and Dana White's already spoken about this after the Contender Series, which if you haven't seen, watch last night's. It was a great week of fights. Really liked the projection that's going. But right after that, there was like a immediate scrum with all the media that was there. And Dana White and who's the golden snitch? That's, I gotta credit Big Brown because that's what he calls him. But Dirk Nowitzki. So Dirk Nowitzki was there and spoke on behalf of his organization, saying that Jon Jones had popped. So this immediately puts the 214 belt on the line. So in my eyes, and still the 205 champion, Daniel Cormier, because he got caught. If he wouldn't have got caught, we wouldn't have never said anything. But rules are rules. So that belt's got to transfer back, in my eyes, to Daniel Cormier. How do you feel that this is going? Do you think that this is going to potentially be the end of Jon Jones?
Is this a conspiracy? I've heard people out there say that the supplement they found he peed clean the entire time.
Right.
All the training camp.
Yep.
And there's only one dirty test, and the supplement that was found in it is a steroid. Like pretty, I guess as far as steroids go, like something that an early person into steroids that doesn't know a lot about steroids would use, like a really crazy steroid. And the steroid that they found in his system takes 3 weeks to show any kind of results at all. It's not something that
so
would
it wouldn't
even
make sense that he take it the day
it
before.
wouldn't even make sense.
Right.
So I've heard people say that somebody like kind of walked by his test and dropped it in. And this idea of a tainted supplement, all his teammates are backing him right now.
Yep.
His coaches and him are saying it's not true. And we're seeing, a lot of guys, including JDS, that are like swearing that it's not true. And we know JDS and Johnny Bones Jones are two guys that you're like, look at their bodies have significantly changed.
Especially this 214 fight. We've never seen Jon Jones. We've seen him look bigger and more muscular, but never this leaned out and shredded. So, of course, the immediate, I told you so, look at his body.
It's no surprise to DC. DC said that he was on steroids.
He was saying, look at this guy. He was saying, look at this guy, but I don't care, Jon Jones. I'm going to beat you anyways. Well, steroids helped him win. I'm just saying. Steroids helped Jon Jones. But now with the recent events, do we have to take every single one of Jon Jones' fights into consideration now?
Yes.
Exactly.
But they don't do it for every other fighter that we know is a potential doper or been caught doping. People still let Overeem win and don't discount any of his wins. And in fact, most of the real fans of MMA that I know, they're like, fuck it, bring me Ubereem. Bring me Ubereem. And then I was wondering, is this whole tainted supplement thing the loophole that they can go outside now because of this Conor McGregor and all the loopholes that it's built, is saying Jon Jones tested dirty, a really great way for now them to set up this spectacle fight between Brock Lesnar and Jon Jones, and now they can discard USADA altogether and treat it as the spectacle match that a lot of MMA fans want to see. So now if you discredit Jon Jones in any testing he has, you can say, let's get him and Brock Lesnar on the December card, ixnay all drug tests, or whatever one does the other has to do as well. So now it's not like, well, Jon Jones has had a year clean piss record. They're like, no, Jon Jones is dirty too. So now it discredits Jon Jones in favor of making Brock Lesnar the pay-per-view superstar. And it also, what it does for the UFC, if you want to go to the conspiracy idea of it, is it sets up one of the probably most watched pay-per-views for them, a big, huge money fight that they know they can bank on, DC Jones 10. Now we can just watch this go on and on and on.
Right. I'm sure Daniel Cormier is dancing in his pants. He's putting down the donut and like, shit, gotta stay at 205.
He's in Hawaii with his family.
Good for him. He deserves it. He deserves to take a little bit of time off. But the high that Daniel Cormier, even though he knows that he can't beat Jon Jones, he is going to have hey, Jon Jones never beat me fair and square. He's going to always have that in his back pocket. And guess what? Nobody touches DC in the division other than Jon Jones. So all of a sudden, DC can be a champ for another 2 years.
Or is DC all of a sudden in talk for best pound for pound of all time because the only person he's lost to is a dirty Jon Jones?
You got to take it all into consideration. And man, the potential that this young man has. He's already lost $90 million contracts with Nike. Multiple sponsors dropped. People keep getting behind him because I did hear a theory, and this was via Chael Sonnen. He has a specific fight that he said Jon Jones versus OSP wasn't going to happen, and the reason he had put that prediction out there, that fight didn't happen, was because he had heard a story, and he's talked about it a few times, that Jon Jones hid from USADA underneath the bleachers until they left, or underneath the mats or somewhere in the gym until they left, but they stayed there for like 8 hours.
Was Jon Jones?
Yeah. Vanderlei Silva's the one who ran away from the fight. So he never was caught. Jon Jones was never caught, but where Chael's saying is potentially USADA is super pissed about that, where they actually put out a court order because they wanted to go try to find the piss in the dirt to try to test it, which would totally not be valid, but that's what they were. That's how mad they were once they heard, because the word started getting around like Jon was under their nose the whole time. Nobody caught him. So this is kind of USADA getting back at him like, hey, we might even plant something on you. You made us look bad. We're not going to they're doing their dirty tricks. They're showing their little bit of force that they have. So I have heard other conspiracies.
The saddest part to me about this is it doesn't matter from here. It negates Jon Jones from being the greatest of all time. This isn't just some fighter we're talking about. This is the fighter who I would say most fight fans say is the greatest of all time, if not the future greatest of all time. And it just really negates him out of a lot of the conversation.
Totally agree. I think
it's so depressing.
It's so depressing because he was somebody that I was going to say later on in life, like, do you remember the Jon Jones era? Do you remember the amazing fighters that he came through and just retired legend after legend? And that was when he was 23. Then on his mid-30s, he just fell apart. Or early 30s. I think he's 29, 30 right now.
Am I wrong when I have watched a lot of documentaries on steroids and talked to a few athletes, am I wrong to think that it's steroids, it's not as much performance enhancing as healing enhancing?
I feel like that's 100% right. That I'd say 80%, if not 85% of the fighters are taking, like Brian Ortega, T-City. He got popped for steroids, and he was coming off of a knee injury And that's why he was taking them.
T-City.
And
What a surprise he got popped for steroids.
But that's what I'm saying.
I know,
so
T-City.
You think that's why I made that specific
Oh, I thought that was his
correlations.
nickname.
No, it is his nickname.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
But
T-City
testosterone
triangle.
Titty.
But he doesn't.
Titty City.
He doesn't look like the typical fighter that would be on steroids because you tend to think muscle-bound fighters. He's not. He's still gangly. But he specifically
so if it's
was
just
like,
for
it was
healing,
still.
what is the problem with it in the sport?
You gotta heal naturally. You gotta heal naturally.
I don't know. I kind of
Even
want
though
my
they give you
fighters to
pain
be
medication.
healed. It's kind of the same thing as, you know, the CBD oils and how they're
But then it
helping
gets
with
into
concussions
EPOs.
and brain.
Like, it gets into that because that helps your cardio, and that's where Chael popped all of his stuff because he didn't look like the biggest, most muscular guy, but he could go 5 rounds hard.
Is
and
there a way
people
you can
couldn't-
take all that where it's healthy for your body?
The thing with
If you were to
steroids,
do it under doctors,
the
if you
truth-
do all this
right.
under doctors, can you take all this stuff and be healthy about it?
Yes, 100%. The people that you tend to remember is the people that abuse,
Then
hence
why can't
bodybuilders.
we-
That's what you think of when you think
Yeah.
steroids. But they abuse the living shit out of steroids.
And if you took somebody who abused it that looked like a bodybuilder, that build would not be the best for MMA.
For sports in general. That's why you
Any
don't see
sport, yeah.
bodybuilders as athletes. It doesn't make sense.
Gosh, man, it's really a rough line, and I'm somebody who definitely was like, if you're not clean, like fuck Overeem. If you're not clean, I don't even want to see you. If you're not clean, then you fuck Brock Lesnar, fuck that guy. All of his wins negated. But
Yep, everything.
now the more I'm watching it, and the Lance Armstrong, people are going to do it. There's always somebody who can beat the test and are the best in the world, constantly just the guys that are the ones that are able to beat the tests. So I don't
Yes.
want it to be that way. I don't want it, so if I want to make it as level playing field as possible, and the poor guys have to abide by USADA and the rich guys sometimes get caught. So let's just get rid of USADA. And the other thing, I mean, watching even in the Russian Olympics and everything with that, are any of these organizations not penetrable to messing up?
They don't care. A lot of these organizations
They're
in
like
other
mafia.
countries, they don't care because they're just like, wait, you're going to give me guys that heal faster, put on better fights. What's not to love? And what I was going to say before this is you were asking, like, can you do it safe with a doctor? All of the long-term studies on steroids are inconclusive. Like, when they say, oh, I can show you bodies and bodies of old guys that have died because of steroids. No, they died because of pre-existing conditions.
Or abusing.
Or abusing. But if done healthy and properly, once you start, though, you got to start getting blood work for the rest of your life, though. Don't think that you can just start and stop these cycles. So the fact that we had heard previously that Jon Jones has been on stuff, he could just be taking stuff to keep himself natural now because it's not something that...
There's no going back.
Exactly. And it really, I just thought of that on the air, late breaking, right to your ears.
It's always late breaking. It's always late breaking.
He could have just been
I
staying
just thought
at
of that.
natural
That's
levels.
not planned. I did not rehearse that.
So-
No, we didn't talk about this before. That's what we're trying not to talk about MMA as much off air. We feel like it ruins some of the conversation sometime when we beat it into the ground
Right.
when we're not on microphone. So we try to not chat about it. So we haven't chatted about this at all.
Right, this is all fresh and new, and the time just synced up for us. So, other stuff that went on, other than this Jon Jones stuff, do you see feelings hurt again? Polly Malignaggi getting all up in
Oh
people's
my
businesses?
God.
Gee,
He is really
It's the
becoming
most-
the ex-girlfriend that I'm going to show up at your job. You just walk into work one day and I'm there like leaned over with your coworkers, chit-chatting it up. And you're like, holy shit, this bitch was just outside my window till 4 a.m. last night acting a fool. And now she's at my job acting normal like none of that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And being friends with my friends, calling your mom. And you're like, bitch, we broke up. It was never like that.
we all know one, guys. We all know one.
Yes.
So,
That's how I feel. He is so bitter.
Exactly, and he's showing up to media events this is the most attention Polly's ever had
In his
before.
life.
Exactly. Now retired boxer. What I think he's doing though, where he's taking missteps, is he's putting his job in jeopardy. He's putting his Showtime analysis because
I
he's
agree.
not looking good at all for himself, and he's contradicting what's making them money as well by coming in and doing these things, and it makes him more of a joke as an announcer because he can't keep his emotions under control. And he should have known, we've talked about it before, that everyone's here for Connor and Mac, not for Connor and Paulie. And how dare you come out here and during one of these events. What I really loved about the tape, because there was a ton of footage on it, is Ari, Connor's agent, and Connor, they were even like, you're talking out of lane. You're talking out of your
contract.
Yes,
You're talking out of
your contract. And what Paulie doesn't seem to get, because Paulie keeps saying, you released a video, so that breaks the bro rules. That means it's good. I can say whatever the hell I want. No, it doesn't. Legally, they can say whatever the hell they want. When they're the bosses and paying you, they can say only us can release it and you can't. It doesn't matter what reason. And Paulie seems to think that there's some sort of bro code, and he's dealing with lawyers.
Paulie thought he really thought, his ego thought, when he got called in by Connor's camp, that they were calling him in to say, okay, Paulie, what do we need to know to beat Floyd Mayweather?
Right.
And they weren't asking him that at all. They don't want to know how a boxer thinks they can beat Floyd Mayweather, because a boxer never has beat Floyd Mayweather. Right. They don't want any of his information. Right. They really just wanted to see if everything they thought would work. Mm-hmm. And it did. And he is unraveling at the seams, and I have to say, I don't want to call him a bitch, but it's very unmasculine. His traits of how he's acting right now are very unmanly. And I don't even know if there's a manly or an unmanly, but this is fucking unmanly. You don't go running around chasing people.
Especially when your job is to cover the fight. That's where he's being very, very... But is this a lifelong combative sport figure, and this is what happens? Guess what? Impulse control. That's exactly what Paulie's showing us right now, and that tends to be frontal lobe damage, which if you get punched in the face for a living, you're gonna have frontal lobe damage. There's kickboxers that have retired early. Nicky Holzkin, who just retired because he's 23, but he saw some lesions start in his brain, and he had an announcing duty and decided to go that way. Paulie has had some very brutal fights, very big comebacks, but I don't want to, but I hope that his personal life is going well, because if he's doing this on this type of stage, I don't know how personally he could be in a good spot. I think he's doing this to try to drum up funds because of
some sort of something.
Exactly. He is trying to get the next fight because he sees the money that he could be making. It's just awkward to me. It's very awkward, because you would think a professional like Paulie, supposed professional like Paulie, would know better than this.
Another reason that I know Connor will never fight Paulie for a fight. Everybody's thinking that this is building all this. Have you ever seen Connor go backward? If he's going to rematch anyone, I think it should be Aldo, not Paulie Maldonado.
The easier fight, though.
Paulie?
Yeah, all day. That's the easiest fight that you have at any point in time.
Aldo would murk Paulie.
In an MMA fight.
That's the other argument. Oh my gosh, it was pretty interesting. Oh, look at this. You can't see it because it kind of rinsed off a little bit, but it's my 49-1 Clover henna tattoo.
Whoa, 49-1. I like it.
Yeah,
good placement.
I had a whole lot of chit chat with people at a work party yesterday, and and you said it way back at the beginning of this in November, and it's the quote by someone. Very few people know shit about boxing.
His uncle, Floyd Mayweather's uncle.
And then Connor said even fewer people know anything about fighting. And that is what I think is an interesting... I just am hearing everyone regurgitate what, people have been saying on ESPN. Yep. Like, whatever the biggest point is...
Sumo wrestler Nick Diaz.
Yes, the craziest stuff. And that's the whole other thing that...
they get Skip Bayless.
When I hear
fucking fight news from Skip Bayless.
A boxing analyst say that Connor's a quitter because he gave up his back to Nate.
You don't understand position. You don't understand position.
It makes me crazy.
Yeah, it's so fucking nuts.
It makes me fucking crazy. And when I hear them talk about how MMA's best, MMA's best, MMA's best, I'm like, I love Conor McGregor. Sure. I love Conor. He isn't even our top 10 best. He isn't even our top 10 best.
I don't think he's in the pound for pound either.
So I'm like, no. Don't try to... You guys have no idea what you're talking about. You guys have no idea what you're saying about... And then somebody else told me, well, Connor, he can't fight boxers. He can't fight stand-up fighters. And I was like, where did you even hear that? If he wants to keep standing. Connor doesn't want to take it to the ground.
Right.
He wants to make it, and they're like, oh, well, Connor's going to give him so much pressure. Where is that from? Since when has Connor been a pressure fighter? He lays off. He's not, I mean, he has pressure, but he's a defensive fighter.
Yeah,
but
he's
it's
a counter
just,
striker.
yeah, so it's really crazy to hear all these people that are all talking shit. And before, I would say Gen X and before, everybody grew up on boxing.
Yep, that's what I remember. Tyson fights. We have parties, barbecue, Tyson.
Foreman,
yep.
Holyfield,
De La Hoya,
Lennox,
Marquez.
Sugar Ray Leonard, like, you know, like there's the fucking your boy who's
Vargas.
De
La Hoya.
Yeah, De La Hoya.
Yeah.
I'm like, all these people were all the time on TV. It was everywhere. Boxing was everywhere. They've taken a misstep. I just don't like the idea, and it's not taking anything. I feel like Floyd is the fastest head mover in the game.
Yeah, he can definitely dodge a punch.
He's not the best fighter in the game. He's the best head mover in the game.
Well, some of the fun parlays that have been out there, Bovada specifically has 152 plays on Mac May, and as we were saying before, there's even books taking it, but some of the bets that I was looking at earlier today, and by the way, real quick, guess what the line is for Conor McGregor as of right now against Floyd Mayweather?
350.
300 plus 300 to Mayweather's minus, I think.
And I said it too. Every single person that said, I'm going to go put money on Floyd, I said, not yet. They're going to get closer. They're going to get closer still. The hype train is fucking... There's still a little man
There's
shoveling
still a couple
coal
days. There's still 2
in
days.
fucking Connor's hype train.
It's getting gnarly. It's definitely insane that there's professional boxers that weren't even this close. So, some of the fun bets that I saw were Donald Trump, whether he tweets over 6.5 tweets throughout the day of the fight or not. Over, under, and I couldn't tell you the exact line because it's all been moving.
Over or under?
I think over. Easy to over. And
6 in a day? Does he ever do 6 in a day?
I don't follow him that much, but he goes between like... I don't know. I just see every tweet he makes.
I think
most
an
tweets
interesting
he makes
tweet.
a big
Does
thing.
he tweet about... Because isn't Floyd his boy?
I think they have some back in the day. They were on a show together or something like that. Maybe there's a photo of him. I have seen a photo of, I think,
what
the
about
old
mine?
young dog.
Conor McGregor proposes to Dee Devlin.
I love
Win
that.
or lose.
You got to submit that to some odds because that's a really good one. I like that one. I think that's a 50-50. That's a coin flip.
I think that's a good one.
There was other bets that were really... I saw really good lines for Floyd Mayweather being minus or plus 250 for a decision. If Floyd Mayweather wins.
It's only by a decision.
It's only by a decision for plus 250. So that line, I got a sum on that. Again, I put a little bit on Conor McGregor round 6 because here at LaTB, we know to win some money. And that was like 1,800. That was like...
That was my pick.
Yeah, I know. That's what I put it down. So I put some... I did just put... I got to back it because if it happens... We going to the Sizzler. we gonna get them chicken biscuits.
Oh my gosh, I feel like it was
biscuits.
Brennan Job. I was listening to him the other day. And I have to say something before I forget, but I was listening to him and I feel like he felt like he invented We Going Sizzler.
That's fucking Billy Madison, isn't it?
Yeah, I was like, he said, you know what I say?
Or not Billy Madison,
going
Happy
Sizzler.
Gilmore.
And I'm like, that's what everybody say. That's not what
My
you
treat.
say. The other thing I have to say, it's kind of off topic a little bit, but I'm a little worried about my boy Joey Diaz. I feel like he has a spot on the side of his face that I've been watching on Joe Rogan's show and his own show, and it's getting bigger.
He's
it's like
getting
a
up there in
scab.
age, though.
It's
He's
a
getting up
scab
there.
on the side of his, like, almost by his temple.
Yeah.
But I just think he might have some diabetes. He might need to go get checked out. If that's not healing and it's actually getting bigger, something's going on. I just worry about Joey Coco Diaz. If you don't watch his podcast, it's pretty entertaining.
The Church of What's Happening Now?
Yeah, best name for a podcast ever.
It's a really good one.
Best name.
Definitely a good one.
Second to Lesbo and the Bean.
So, other fight I think there's already even been the lines for the other props that I ended up really liking as well was a not unanimous decision. I think a split decision, or no, sorry, that Connor can win more than 2 rounds, because I feel like Connor can win 4 rounds and lose a decision. So I like that bet. That ended up being, I think, around that 250 range. It's probably already moved by now, but yeah, I'm giving Connor way more of a shot than I initially was back in early days of the podcast where we were predicting this fight, and it's really nice to see it finally coming through. I'm super excited. We've had highs and lows here on the show.
Why did Floyd take this fight?
Money. I just watched a 15 things did you not know about.
Who does
Floyd Mayweather?
Floyd fight next for another money fight?
If he does it right, he shouldn't need one, because he's getting 200K, if not more.
200 million.
200 million K. Like 200 million. Whew. That's unbelievable. And that's not even other sponsors. And he puts money on himself, notoriously does.
Do you think if in like 3 years he would fight Connor again if he lost?
I think that might be a little too far removed at his age already. What I do think with Floyd is, I was watching 15 Things You Didn't Know About Floyd Mayweather earlier today, and it's a YouTube channel, A-Lux, and it went over his spending habits, because they're geeks that like to talk about rich stuff. And he has unbelievable cars, unbelievable amount of cars, and they're multi-million-dollar cars. He notoriously will pay for cash for everything, any jewelry and or car shop that he wants to go to. He has full-time access, like 2-3 in the morning, and multiple people have told him that I've had Floyd Mayweather call me and I've opened up the shop for him because I'm going to make commission on 2 cars that are bought that are over $3 million a piece. Like, that's the kind of luxury. He has 2 jets. You know how much it is to keep jets on the tarmac year round? Just
you know how he has all those watches?
All the Rolexes, every gold.
You want to hear a cool fact that I know about Floyd?
Please.
None of them have the right time purposefully, because he's not on fucking anyone's time but his own. That's fucking playa. That's pimp.
That is pretty pimp. Is it also a bit of the... Is he in the Khaleesi role right now where we don't know if he's a mad genius or just mad?
If he's the mad queen.
Exactly. We don't know if he's like doing this because he understands it, or is it every other athlete that is just like, the money will just keep coming in.
My favorite part is like he tries to, and if you guys haven't been watching the Alpaca Thesaurus, it's so great. I don't know if I said anything about it. I think last time when I was telling you things to look out for, it was Mind Smash, which is another YouTube awesome thing. Yep. But this time it's the Alpaca Thesaurus. There's a gecko, animated gecko, and similar to a Mind Smash, but I would almost say cleverly done because it's kind of amusing. You guys should totally check it out. But it's a lot of the Floyd Mayweather sit-down interview where they break down his eye movements and his lip movements and his body language, and they take Connor interviews and do the same thing for when they ask him random questions on different things that have been happening over the week. And I think it's really interesting, Floyd talking about how he has all these businesses for his family. I don't know if you guys have been watching the Embeddeds and the Showtime things behind McGregor, but he's like, I want my family, I don't want them to ever have to work like I did. Whatever, dude. It's not like he was in the coal mines. He's been boxing his whole life, but whatever. Right. Not that that's not fucking work.
Yeah, right.
It's not hard job. It's not, to quote Floyd, easy work. But he's like, oh, and then I want my kids. I have businesses for my kids. And I'm like, girl collection? Your titty bar? I want my daughter to take over my titty bar.
That's
I
funny.
just thought it was interesting. Not that a lady can't run a good titty bar.
Agreed. Maybe even better. I was about to say might be even better. But there's going to be some antics there that I'm going to want a documentary.
I thought when they were actually showing it and the amount he was talking about girl collection, I'm like, are they setting us up for a Showtime series based on this club, like Real Sex on HBO or one of those Cat House on HBO.
I think this is one of those things that it's Ronda Rousey-esque when she was at the peak of her career, where right now they're getting multi-million-dollar movie contracts, guest appearances, Letterman, late night. Everybody wants them and is willing to pay big bucks right now for them. And after this fight, it's gonna all of a sudden it's
Who's
slowly
the best
gonna
two
dwindle off.
sponsors? If you're cleverly,
Yeah.
you're gonna put a sponsor with Floyd and a sponsor with Connor. Who are the sponsors you pick for both guys? We can take time
Is
to
it
think
specific to each
I don't know,
fighter
it's like,
or for both of them? Because
for-
I would immediately, I know what sponsor I'd want immediately. Gatorade and Nike. They're notoriously
No,
known to pay some
I
of the
mean,
most.
like, for Conor McGregor, Lucky Charms. For Floyd, Haynes wife beaters.
Okay.
Is there a clever way you can spin, like, clever marketing to really cap what they're doing?
Oh,
Like
man.
Guinness beer for Connor. With some
Anything
Guinness
Irish
drums.
is going to end up going for Connor. Anything green, Irish clover would be for Connor. I think Connor, if there was an actor that should have been on a goddamn show about badass mythological warriors, Connor should have been there instead of Sheena Dick, whatever that kid's name is, that quit his
Who?
Twitter. Edward Sheehan.
Oh, I think
If Connor
I think Game of
was
Thrones
there-
asked him to be on the
God,
thing, but
they
he
had the
wasn't.
mountain.
I think he wasn't into it yet. But he
Damn,
will. We're
that
gonna
would have
see
been
him everywhere.
That would have been unreal if he would have been a motherfucking psycho.
I think we're gonna see
Man of the
McGregor
North.
everywhere after this. The kid's
Yes, but
charismatic.
the hard thing and what I keep thinking of is what am I going to see Mayweather, which is again the wife beater was a really good one, and that's all I can seem to think about off the top of my head now. Maybe a sponsorship for an education school for kids who can't read good.
Illiteracy.
Yeah.
Childhood illiteracy.
Exactly, something like that.
Adult
But
literacy.
that would be a burn. That wouldn't be necessarily a positive thing for Money Mayweather. I think he's branded himself really well because he did used to be Pretty Boy Floyd. Do you remember that back in the day?
Yeah, well, he says Pretty Boy Floyd has the best record in boxing ever. Money Mayweather doesn't give a shit about that. And I think that's kind of funny. Like, when I was this guy, I cared about that stuff, but I went through a change over the years.
Right.
And I feel like Connor has learned so much from Floyd, even the, like, get in, get out with your head on tact. You know, he's taken less punches in the ring than anyone, you know, Floyd. So it's make your money. Don't why and as fans, why do we insist a guy friggin' mutilate himself to us? Like, not every fighter has to be Muhammad Ali in the end.
Right.
Haven't
Exactly.
we learned anything from that?
Exactly. That's where I
Everyone
think that.
gives these fighters shit like, where the F's Nate and Nick? They don't want to get their head bashed anymore. You think Nate and Nick haven't taken punches to the skull?
Oh yeah.
Like,
yeah.
they're
they've
trying
had
to
a
do other
long career.
things, everyone.
That's
I
where-
want to see them too, but head trauma is real.
Yeah, and it lasts forever. I feel like Don Fry is going through some stuff right now where he was known to be in some of the most brutal wars of ever in Pride era. Actually, the wrestler Tanaka, the fighter who fought Dan Severn in that fight, was recently paralyzed in a wrestling, WWE style wrestling move in Japan and is paralyzed from the neck down now. And he was like legitimately a big man, poor guy. Hope he's doing well.
As a fan, I feel it in my. I know both guys is putting his life on the line every time they step into the octagon with each other.
Right.
I respect
It's a career-ending
that.
fight.
They
every
deserve to get
potential
paid
fight.
for it. They deserve to, at minimum, get a year's salary for it.
Right.
Can we all agree on that?
Did
Like
you
35 a year, 45 a year?
That they were asking Dana after that Contender Series about if Floyd's going to renegotiate his contract with the UFC as soon as he comes back from this fight. And Dana said, well, obviously, yes. And I welcome that because Dana's seen they're making so much money that Dana's like, everybody else want to do this? Cool. We will pay you. But you got to back up what you talk about. But what I really like is that Connor isn't undefeated. He's had a couple falls and just been like, it doesn't matter about the goddamn record. It's about the way you fight. Other quick bet that I just remember off the top of my head that I really liked was disqualification were to happen in the fight. yes or no. And I think it's minus 400 or 500. Maybe it's higher than that now. But I would say put money on that if it's not too high up there in the minus, because I feel like it's a no. Conor McGregor specifically will lose 90% of his purse.
You know, the shitty thing is, I think we could
disqualified.
see some dirty shit go on from Floyd that doesn't get called.
Because he
Potentially
knows
try
the
to
more
draw
tricks.
that out.
He knows more tricks than anybody. And Tyson used to notoriously, after Cuss died, he ended up learning from his other trainers who weren't as ethical how to follow through with an elbow. Look at old Tyson.
Look at
Right.
Floyd fights.
And
You
then
can
an
watch
elbow right
Floyd
behind
fights
it.
and see the elbows.
Right with an elbow. You follow through with it. You pull your shoulder out instead of pulling it back in. You can do it. And Floyd knows every one of those tricks. He's been a part of every one of those tricks. Do you remember Floyd's also knockout of recent Lopez guy, the 26-year-old, 25-year-old who just fell apart, got movie deals, all of those shriveled up, but he had told the boxing community, like, F this, I don't need this. After a groin shot or something like that, Floyd, as the bell rung, Ortiz went to hug him, and he knocked him out. It's one of the few knockouts Floyd has had in many years, but Floyd knows. He knows how to slip and do things that are unethical, but that's what makes this fight so fun.
But you know where it's also interesting is MMA fighters are trained to watch out for that following elbow.
True.
That's another interesting thing is Conor's going to have, golly, what's going to happen? You know why it's so interesting to you, though? I really think about it now, is when it first happened, you're like, I am really not interested to see any MMA person go in a boxing ring. I'm not interested. It doesn't make sense. But once Conor said, I'm an MMA fighter still. I'm going to go and fight an MMA style fight under a specific set of rules.
Right.
It changes the way you feel about him. Like, okay,
Yep.
If he's going to go in and fight his style fight in there,
Right.
I back him a little more.
Exactly.
If he were going to go in, put the shorts and the shoes on and the gloves,
Throw
and
a
all of
knee
a
or
sudden
kick.
he's like, looks like one of those wax mustache guys, like
Right.
boxing the
Bullshitting.
fighting Irish guy
Uh-huh.
in there. You're like, oh no, I'm not into this. For this guy to just cash in on my $90, $99.
Who do you think is going to have the bigger fan base there?
You know, I almost wonder if they put it out of price range for the regular Irish fans that normally follow Conor around to afford.
But they've notoriously come to Vegas because it's direct flights.
I think inside the auditorium we might see a 50-50, but outside in Vegas it is going to be Ireland. I think in the city of Vegas and all the bars surrounding it, everywhere showing the fights, it's going to be insane.
Yep.
But I think inside the auditorium we might see 50-50, and especially close to the ring, I think we might even see more Floyd close to the octagon because of the amount of athletes and hip-hop artists and all the people that follow Floyd. And Floyd's tried really hard. I've watched all the interviews to turn this into a black and white thing. To race bait the fight a little bit.
Really?
Yeah, it kind of bums me out.
Yeah,
a
I
little
would
bit.
agree. I would
He's
totally
like, I'm
agree.
fighting for all the black people out there because Conor is a racist. He calls us all dancing monkeys. And, you know, all this shit that's really untrue and kind of bullshit. I don't believe Conor is a racist. And not that there isn't a lot already going on in the world with racism. That's why I think it's just a fucking odd stance to take now in the world.
Yeah,
like
especially right
with the
before your
black-white
fight.
issue,
Yeah.
with everything happening in South Carolina, and you know, it's just it's a lot of energy to pull to a point to then be one of the most watched events on the planet of all time. It's really, come on, people, let's not turn it into a race thing. Let's all enjoy this for the beauty that it is.
Totally agree. So, you got anything else that came about and since the last podcast here on our special event?
I am looking at my sheet and it is empty. Jon Jones really depleted me, man. I'm depressed as a fan. Jon Jones, you hurt my heart a little bit.
It is
A lot
just
of it.
What a time to be in mixed martial arts and just be seeing like one of the greats of all time being his own worst enemy.
Again and again
And
and
it's
again,
just
and that's
how many
what everyone
times does
said.
he exactly? He's done it so many times that there is people falling off.
I actually have to give Chael Sonnen credit because I think he was the one that said, DC, hang around for a while. Jon Jones will fuck it up.
I feel like we said that on our
I think
podcast
we
right
might have
after.
said that.
We were
Maybe
the
I'm
ones who
giving
said
Chael
that.
credit and it was
Exactly.
listening to
No,
Lesbo and the Bean.
I think we specifically said, don't think that dude ain't gonna be freaking snorting coke off of somebody's butt cheeks at that night. Don't think about it, that he ain't doing that shit.
Jeez,
Fight
man,
life.
that is so depressing though. And I hope it's false, but fuck you, USADA, if it's false. There's going to be a lawsuit one way or the other. Either DC should sue the UFC for allowing this fight to go on because there is no way you can tell me that he didn't take some kind of brain trauma at the end of that fight, of all fights, to boot. He's never been knocked out before in the octagon. He takes his first knockout brutally, and then with 3 being very fair, being very nice to Big John McCarthy, 3 late hits, at least. Brutal fucking elbows. So I feel like either that lawsuit happened or Jon Jones sues USADA for false conviction or some shit.
Right. I thought that you had a very interesting theory with the UFC might be using a bunch of these in a row of like, because USADA's gotten a couple things kind of wrong, even though they don't like to admit it, but it's been like, maybe they're trying to scrap the whole program because Jon Jones makes money. A lot of money. So I could see them definitely using that to their benefit.
Hey, you guys, we got to get off the air right now. And if you guys are listening to us, you can kind of predict the time because the Mayweather-McGregor final press conference is live right now.
So you better
So for all things
to it.
Lesbo and the Bean, go to lesboandthebean.com and follow us on Twitter at Lesbo and the Bean.
Lesbo and the Bean!